Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you one of my absolute favorites, scones. Now some people say them scones, scones or scones. Who knows? I say scones, my daughter says scones. There you go. Anyway, back to the recipe. This is my recipe that I've come up with after trying lots of different recipes, and this one is my absolute favorite. I will share with you my secret ingredient as to why. Stay tuned, let's get baking. Right, let's get going. So I've got 500 grams of flour here. This is plain flour. I'm going to sieve all my ingredients into my bowl, all my dry ingredients. So the flour first. Let's make sure I don't spill. Now it's really important to sieve your ingredients because it gets all the bits out that you don't want. If there's anything in there that you don't want, I'm going to do that in 2 batches. And it adds air into your mixture, so it makes it really lovely and light and fluffy. Right, last bit of flour. Okay, and to that flour, I'm also going to be adding 2 teaspoons, so that was 500 grams of plain flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. Salt is really important for bringing out the flavour in any of your baking. And 2 generous tablespoons of caster sugar. Now caster sugar is actually much better to use in your baking than regular sugar because it's finer and it therefore dissolves a lot better. So you get a much more even melting of the sugar and you don't get grainy bits in. Now, as you can see, there's a few bits there. Sometimes you can press a bit because it's just balls that have formed, but there's a few bits that I don't want in there as well. So that's that done. Now all my sieved ingredients are going to go in my mixer. Again, I've got to try not to spill this everywhere now. Not bad, if I do say so myself. Right, let's keep that to the side. Now, in here, we are going to put butter. Now this is unsalted butter. I've already put salt in there, so I don't want to put any more salt into my bake. So this is 110 grams of unsalted butter. It has to be really, really cold. So as soon as you take it out of the fridge, you cut it up into cubes and you put it in your baking. You don't leave it to get to room temperature like you do with your cakes. It needs to be cold because that's how this mix works best. So that's all my butter gone in there. And then I'm going to put my lid on and whiz it up. Get it on the right way. There we go. Are we ready? What you're looking for when you're whizzing it up is you want it to turn into kind of thick, kind of breadcrumb looking kind of things. You can actually do this with your fingers if you don't have a food processor. You can just rub it between your fingers. Make sure you use your fingertips and not the palms of your hands because that will melt the butter a lot quicker. Your fingertips are going to be cooler. So you just rub it together, but I prefer to do it in the food processor because it's much quicker. Okay, and I think we are done. So if you look, there should be no large bits of butter in there. And you can see it's not very thick, but it's just thicker than regular flour is. Okay, I'm going to put this into a larger bowl so I can mix my wet ingredients into it as well. So I've got my lovely big bowl ready and I'm going to start putting my wet ingredients in as well. So these are going to get tipped in here. So in here, now we've got all our dry ingredients. I'm going to make a bit of a well and I'm going to start putting this in. Now this is my secret ingredient. It is buttermilk. All it is, you can buy buttermilk in the store and it comes very easily. You can find it with the milks and the creams, but I actually prefer to make my own. So all I did was I put 300 mils of whole milk in here and then I put 2 to 3 teaspoons of lemon juice in, give it a stir and then left it on the side while I got my other ingredients ready. So it should take about 10 minutes or so for your buttermilk to form. And if you want to look, you will actually see that it's actually curdled, so you can see little bits. So this is not as smooth as the buttermilk that you will get in store, but it tastes just as good. So all I'm doing now, I'm just giving it a little mix to make sure that it's all combined. And I'm going to put this in here and start mixing it very slowly together. So I'm going to use a spoon to bring it together to start with, and then I'll tip it out onto my table and do it by hand the rest of the way to finish it off. Okay, time to get hands dirty now. Let's get all out of the spoon. There we go. And I'm just going to squeeze it all together because it's still quite sticky, you can see. So I'm going to squeeze it all together as much as I can before I tip it out, so it's all one block of dough, if you like. Now, the thing that you must remember as well with scones is you can overhandle them, especially when we get to rolling it out in a moment. So you want to handle your dough as little as possible, because the butter's going to melt with your warm hands and it just affects the rise of the scones. So bring it together, you just want to have it brought together. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to move that to the side, and I have some plain flour, and I'm just going to sprinkle some plain flour over my work surface. And then I'm going to tip this out onto my work surface, exactly like this. Now I'm not going to knead this, I don't want to knead it, I just want to bring it all together into one big dough. As you can see, it's very sticky still, which is why we've put flour on to stop it from sticking to the table. And I'm just going to squeeze it all together, squeeze, squeeze, flip it over, and that flour on the table is really going to help with keeping it stuck to itself, if I can get my words out. And if you feel the need, like me, to have a little bit more flour on your table, feel free to add it. Put a bit on top as well. Now you can see how it's come together really lovely. Now the moister, the stickier, that's the word I was looking for, the stickier your dough is, the better your scones will turn out. So you don't want to make them too dry. You just want to have them stuck together. So you can see I'm not even kneading it, I'm just squeezing it together to get it all stuck together as much as I can. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put a bit more flour on top. I'm just going to use my rolling pin just to ease it out very, very gently. I don't want to do it hard. I just want it to be flatter so that it's the thickness that my scones are going to become. There we go, that will do me just fine. And then I have a cutty here, this is 6 centimeters, and it's a fluted edge. You can get ones that are fluted, you can get plain ones. Now the important thing to remember when you're cutting your scones is because it's so sticky, you need to make sure that you've got flour on your ring to make sure it doesn't stick to this. So in my bowl of flour, I've not got much, I'm going to top that up in a minute, or I can pick it up and just dust it around. If you can see what I'm doing there, and it just helps it not stick. So what I'm going to do, and I didn't do before, is show you my lined baking trays. So I've got 2 baking trays here that I've just lined with a little bit of parchment paper. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut these and I'm going to put them straight on my baking tray. So I've floured it already. I'm just going to make sure, because we don't want it sticking at all. And then, now the important thing is with scones, the other important thing is you've got to make sure you push straight down and not twist at all. Because when you twist, what you do, So you press it straight down and you pull it up, and it should, if you floured that, it should come off really, really easily. If you twist it, it affects the pattern on the side, but also it will affect the rise because you've twisted the gluten to each other, so it stops it rising as efficiently. So you have to make sure you go straight down and straight back up again. That's very, very important. And I'm just going to put that there, and I'm just going to work my way around the rest of this dough. Now, I didn't that time. Important to remember to flour in between every cutting, just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the dough. I got lucky that time. But if you have floured it, it won't stick. If it stays in, that's absolutely fine. We can go back to it. Straight down, back up. Look how easy that comes out. Let's flour this again. Straight down, back up. That one stayed in there. That's okay, we'll get it in a minute. We will get it in a minute. And that's the last one I can make with this batch. There we go. Right, let's get these two out. Now, you can absolutely, I'm going to go onto a new tray. So let's pop that one over there for a moment. You can absolutely squish this all back together and use it again. However, when you squish it back together and reuse it, I do because I hate waste. But when you squish it and reuse it again, it is going to affect, because you are now handling the dough some more, it is going to affect the dough. It is going to make it not be as light and fluffy as your first original ones that you cut out. It will still be yummy, especially once you've got your clotted cream and your jam on. So don't you worry about that. Right, let's keep going. Now this one is not going to be as nice as my first ones will be. I can guarantee you that because I've handled this dough an awful lot. But I'm going to make a giant scone for whoever gets that one, because that one's not going to be my best. Right, so now we've got our scones all done and ready. One last thing you need to do before they go in the oven is you need to give them a little bit of a brush. Sometimes I use eggs, so I just beat an egg and I use a brush to do it. But in this case, because I am making these as egg-free, there's not been any egg gone in the dough, so I am going to use milk instead. Milk will not make him go as brown as egg does, because egg browns better in the oven, but milk will still give it a lovely little crust to go on. My scones are now oven ready. They have been cut out, put on the tray, and been brushed with milk. So I'm going to go and put them in my preheated oven that's been preheating at 190 degrees while I've been making this. And they will go in there for 15 to 20 minutes until they have risen a little and they've browned on top. So see you shortly. Right, so these are the first batch out of the oven. I've cooked them in 2 separate batches, and you can see my rogue one that I re-rolled a few times. That was the last one that I did. You can see how that's so different to the first ones that I cut out and how those are really perfect. You can also see, if you look very carefully, you can see the crack on the side of the scones. And that shows that they've actually risen really well in the oven, that they've not fused together. So this is what happens when you keep re-rolling. You can see it's much more curved. You don't get a nice straight edge like that. So that's how you can tell the difference between the kind of one-cut ones and the ones that have been re-rolled and cut over and over again. So all I'm going to do now is pop these on here and split them up. Now there is a lot of debate about how you do your cream. Do you do your cream first or your jam first? So depending on where you're having your clotted cream and your scones, you would have it in different ways. So it is, let me get this right because I always forget, The Cornish way is to have your clotted cream on top, so your jam first and then your cream. The Devonshire way is to have your jam first and your clotted cream, no, the other way around, your clotted cream on the bottom and your jam on top. So Devon, cream first, jam then, and Cornish, get the words right, Cornish is jam first and then the cream. My preference is to have the cream first and the jam on top, just because I think it looks pretty and I like pretty. So that's what I'm going to do for you now. So cream first. Now this is clotted cream. You can buy this very easily in supermarkets. It'll have a lovely thick crust over the top, and it should be lovely and soft inside and have a bit of a gooiness to it, which is just gorgeous. And for me, that just shows the freshness of them. So that's our clotted cream. And you can use any jam that you want. So the kids and I will go berry picking in the summer and we'll make our own jam. This is one that we've made ourselves at home. And that's great fun. I'll do a video on that as well, making your own jam. This jam that we have made is a blackberry jam. I love blackberry jam on my scones. I also really love strawberry jam. Strawberry for me is a very English fruit, and that's why I like putting strawberry jam on over blackberry. These are beautiful. There you go. They are all ready to eat now. If your family is anything like mine, these will be gone as soon as they're out of the oven. Oi! Thanks for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope it's been educational for you. If you've any questions or any comments, please put them below. If not, please like this video and do subscribe and do share it with anyone you think might be interested. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.